Hunter x Hunter has a multitude of complicated characters that keep its story constantly engaging, from the likes of our main four protagonists to the Hisokas and Zoldycks of the world. They've all got these inspired, standout moments that make them genuinely enjoyable or at the very least memorable, no matter how morally questionable or evil their actions and personalities may be. Togashi's ability to write characters this effectively comes in the way of the characters' nen abilities, motivations, and personality fusing together in a perfect way that makes even minor characters memorable. In this ever-expanding world of Hunter x Hunter, some gems would undoubtedly emerge in the eyes of fans, and the most standout among them are the Phantom Troupe. Aside from the aforementioned traits for an interesting character in this story, the Phantom Troupe demonstrates a terrifying level of cohesion as a group. They abide by rules set out by Chrollo and commit heinous actions that would make them easy to dislike but not outright hate because of the instances of genuine humanity demonstrated by some of the members. Despite Kurapika rightfully placing the troupe on this pedestal of evil early on, as we experience them outside of his perception, they come down to earth a little more. They aren't a generic group of thugs who will discard one another at a moment's notice if it suits them. So to prove this point, it's best to dive into each member in order of their appearance, so Uvogin is up first. Uvogin's initial design demonstrates instantly that he is a man guided by impulses, simple and very effective in a close range battle. All of these ideas can be derived from his design alone, as he looks like a genuine barbarian. The pelts he wears alongside the shorter shorts, tank top, and large muscles communicate strength, a oneness with nature, and freedom. However, he also is made to be quite careless because of his impulsiveness and freedom communicated by how he openly shows off his physique. This does fall in line with what enhancers typically look and act like, as Gon has a similar disposition in design. Uvogin fighting the Shadow Beast 1-on-4 shows he believes in his strength completely no matter the odds. He punches first, asks questions later, and doesn't care about the abilities of his opponents because of his perceived belief that his strength will be enough. His character is easily dissectable this way as a headstrong individual who doesn't think or care too deeply about who he fights, only whether or not he can exert his strength against them and win. He serves as one of the more detestable members of the Phantom Troupe because he enjoys the killing so openly. Aside from Feitan complaining about how he can't torture people a lot, it's never this blatant with all of the members that they enjoy killing innocents or anybody that much. While everyone except thinks uses weaponry, Uvogin eats, screams, and spits at his opponents. All of these things are an extension of his body. He's pure physicality through and through. However, he's not a meathead through and through. He knows when he's at a disadvantage and when he has the advantage. This made him the best kind of opponent for Kurapika when it comes to his approach to fighting, standing in contrast to his character, yet they share one similarity: an unwavering conviction. Kurapika's small physique and misidentification as a woman by several characters, complex nen ability, and softer, more youthful voice in the anime adaptations characterize him as Uvogin's complete opposite. Furthermore, this battle is drenched in two different ways to fight as a nen user. Do you rely on your Hatsu or your strength with the added benefit of nen and your Hatsu? Kurapika is the former, Uvogin is the latter. Combine this with the conversation the two have prior to the battle, and they couldn't be any more different. One kills for no other reason than because they can and they work for the troupe. The other is chained by his grudge, ethics, and morality, then exacts those three aspects on his sworn enemies out of a duty to himself. This conflict of personalities devolves from a contest of wits into a bloody war of ideals really fast. Kurapika is forced to torture Uvogin to no avail or benefit to himself. In the end, Uvogin is a loyal companion, and Kurapika is someone willing to do what he must to get revenge. Uvogin serves a purpose of making Kurapika do what he hates and locking him down as a murderer. He makes for an effective villain because he exemplified the type of personality everyone expected from the troupe because of Kurapika's statements. Then he subverts that interpretation just by a small bit because of the loyalty he displays. Prior to this, the troupe was shown to be a tight group of friends, but given their line of work and actions, it wouldn't be so expected that they would be loyal to one another as they are. They are thieves, but first and foremost, they are family. An idea that Pakunoda takes to heart. Regardless of her relatively short role in the York New arc, Pakunoda is a large piece of the Phantom Troupe's heart and compassion for one another. The part of her ability that allows her to read people's memories and to give her memories to others serves as a two-way street for her being able to be understood by others and vice versa. Her net ability application is represented quite well in the philosophy behind her design, which makes her look vulnerable to deceive targets. She has a look of a young, attractive businesswoman, making her look easy to approach or attractive to others. Getting in close is a requirement for her psychometry, and the pistol she carries uses her memory bomb, so she has a great combo on her hands. Her lack of combat scenes meld well with her Hatsu too, because memories are valuable weapons for the troupe and to use against enemies. It's because of her ability to understand or manipulate memories and feelings that makes her the heart of this group. Her ultimate decision to save Chrollo regardless of his belief in the spider existing without him is a perfect example of this. She's the one who decides whether to give up Chrollo or allow herself to be killed in the name of the spider. Naturally, she chooses the one who created the spider and the source of her memories with everyone in it. Unlike many of the other Phantom Troupe members, her agency is what determined the spider's future at this point. Furthermore, her feelings of gratitude towards Killua and Gon demonstrates genuine appreciation for others outside of the troupe. It's a small moment for sure, but it really sets her apart from any of the other members in the arc they are properly introduced in. Inevitably, she cannot escape her death because at the end of the day, she has committed many unforgivable actions. Her sacrifice to give the founding members her feelings and memories makes for a final moment unique specifically to her. What she couldn't say, her Hatsu told for her, furthering Uvogin's sentiment of the troupe's unwavering loyalty to one another. For her short time in the story, she left her mark advancing in finding the identity of Kurapika, telling the troupe of Chrollo's condition, and being able to deliver one of the most emotional deaths in the entire series. Machi was the first member introduced in the story if you don't count Hisoka's fake membership. Her role is a silent one as her appearance sets up the next big antagonistic force of the York New arc. Despite her limited time, her characterization is well communicated. When she interacts with Nobunaga or any of the other members of the troupe, she's never afraid to express her opinion or be led by her gut feeling. Notably, she's not very emotional but still grieves the loss of those close to her even into her adulthood. Where she was visibly shaken by Saras's death as a child, Pakunoda's passing caused a much more controlled reaction. Once more, in both cases, she didn't shed any tears. Her emotional control reflects in her threads, which takes precise application to use effectively. They cannot be seen by normal means unless using Gyo, a reflection of how someone would actually have to study Machi closely to understand her true feelings. Her one major emotional response came from the likes of Hisoka upon his declaration to murder every Phantom Troupe member. Their relationship has always been a one-sided playful attraction on Hisoka's part, which led to Machi growing a bit fond of him as she still fulfills her side of the deal while thanking him post-Chrollo fight. Her expression of pity after his death gave her a small moment of kindness extended to someone else outside of the troupe, similar to Pakunoda. As Shalnark would put it, she's a kind person at heart. Her expressing these feelings over Hisoka of all people portrays what feels like a moment of care for him to some very small degree. Although sparing Hisoka after confirming his death and he jumps back to life thanks to post-mortem Nen could be seen as betrayal of Chrollo's intentions. Chrollo wanted to be rid of Hisoka for good in one way or another, and it could only go one way. Not to mention he picked a fight with Chrollo of all people, so one could imagine Machi felt pretty annoyed not just because of his decision, but his unwillingness to let sleeping dogs lie when given the chance. It feels a bit strange because she probably grasped the level of danger Hisoka posed from their meetings, if not from all the planning that Chrollo put into his vision for this fight. Unfortunately, what follows sparing Hisoka were the deaths of Shalnark and Kurapika. Given she blew her opportunity to make sure Hisoka stayed dead, it's not too far of a stretch to think that she blames herself for their deaths in some part. Overall, Machi isn't the most in-your-face character or combatant. She's a person that cares for the people she cares for and will do what she can to protect the troupe. Nobunaga is the grand protector type within the troupe. His refusal to throw away Chrollo's life because he wants to save him and attack on Hisoka after reading his fortune really establishes this point quite well. Not to mention his role to protect the supportive types within the troupe. While his Nen ability has yet to be revealed, the samurai design of his character is rather striking and spells danger for anyone who angers him. There's also a sense of honor about him too that couples with this design. He embodies the spider's all for one and one for all mentality and places the troupe's interpersonal connections at the forefront of his priorities. Furthermore, he has a propensity to give people chances, it seems. He tells Squall not to move or he'll cut him down not once, but twice before he does so. A bit of context is that he doesn't even know if Pakunoda even retrieved Squall's memories of Kurapika before doing it. Similarly, he gives a warning to Gon and Killua while waiting for Chrollo. These two instances are guided by his emotions and leeway he's willing to grant to those because he's desperate to fill the void in his heart left after Uvogin's death. Furthermore, as the first to have a strong reaction to it, Nobunaga is given a difficult moral and ethical question to answer. How could he care for the lives of the troop and not the lives of other people? His killings inflict grief similar to, if not greater than, what he feels onto others, Kurapika being a perfect example. Unfortunately, this question is never truly answered per se and is never reflected on by his character, but it's a moment that makes his character shine for sure. Shizuku, Franklin, Finks, Feitan, Bonolenov, and Kurapika fall into a category of characters who don't have many scenes and are there to fill out the dynamic of the spider. Shizuku takes on a supporter role within the group. Her vacuum makes her quite versatile as she can suck out non-living things from people and eat an insane amount of carcasses. Her outfit matches her nano ability because she looks decently normal and kind of acts as such. After all, who really thinks vacuums are dangerous except for maybe dogs? She's also the only other person in the troop to have an inverted cross in her design. It doesn't seem to feature a deeper meaning so far, but it does match Chrollo. Franklin stands as a hulking figure similar to Uvogin, and he's a heavy hitter type thanks to his emitter ability dual machine gun. His click on and off fingers makes the Frankenstein's monster inspiration really go that extra mile, if Frankenstein had built the monster equipped with 21st century magical technology. Anyways, Franklin is one of the troop's members who can acknowledge the troop's weaknesses and respects Chrollo's wishes the most. He, like Shalnark, take a more rational standpoint for the spider's progression than an emotional one. He is probably the greatest embodiment of the Meteor City's bonds, being thinner than water and yet thicker than blood, considering his thought to start the spider over. As a matter of fact, the friction between the members in York New symbolizes this line quite perfectly. It's because several troop members care for Chrollo that they want to save him, but just as many care about his philosophy behind the spider. Franklin's inclusion brings this idea home because he's willing to start the spider over so it can live. He lives up to Chrollo's philosophy through and through, making him a rather interesting character that would see situations from a rational standpoint no matter how dire the straits. Finks is a hothead whose Hatsu Ripple Cyclotron shows his upfront natural personality and approach to situations. His tracksuit clothing complements this part of his character that much more because what you see is what you get. A strong, fast, to-the-point character, but he's not without his depth as shown in the Chimera Ant arc. Coming face to face with the residents turned into ants, he tells them to die in style instead of submitting themselves to their circumstances without a fight. Clearly he has a respect for his home and wants those who live there within it to respect their lives to the very end, which leaves a bad taste in his mouth, speaking to his sympathy for those who lost their humanity during the Chimera Ant arc. Feitan, for all his cruelty, carries an interesting character trait of speaking in broken Japanese. Although his native tongue is unknown, his broken speech adds to his antisocial, closed-off appearance. His meek-looking frame captures a distinct sense of fragility like Shalnark and Kurapika, but it works to his advantage as whatever damage is dealt to him is given back thanks to his Hatsu. Painpacker's design is reminiscent of historical executioner clothing with its own flair, of course. The white and red coloring of the outfit paired with the inverted cross on the pants contradict the meaning of a design and symbol closely resembling the clothes cardinals wear in the Catholic churches. Although this may be a stretch when it comes to intentions, there are other instances of concepts of real-world religions being mentioned in characters' designs, abilities, or practices. If this is the angle being shot for given the design of Painpacker, it's very well done. The dominance of white in the design paired with the executioner look brings to life a character whose true nature is one that contradicts innocence and purity while spitting on a faith that preaches those very things. What was originally a color combination and symbol worn together by the most devout Catholics is now being worn and inverted by someone who revels in torture, mutilation, murder, theft, and probably loads of other crimes. Feitan by far has the most striking design and net ability out of the troop as it works into his stature and character perfectly. Bonolenov is definitely the most unique member of the troop. Having come from a small tribe in the Hunter x Hunter world, his body is decorated by several holes in his skin that allow sound to pass pass through. His Hatsu revolving around his tribal origins make him stand out, but because little is known about his past, not too much can be said about his design either. The wraps around his body serve an obvious purpose. Similarly, his ability to transform into other people is interesting, but there's nothing concrete to draw from. Kurapika unfortunately has very little to show aside from his net ability and unexpected death. Gallery Fake makes for an interesting ability because he can replicate objects and people, which was integral to the troupe's heist in the York New arc. Like his ability though, his design makes him appear as a mysterious little guy who's capable of God knows what. Chrollo furthers this idea by demonstrating his Hatsu's high ceiling for potential when paired with other abilities against Hisoka. Kurapika has a very versatile Hatsu without needing to be combative. Whenever he has to, he can make the troupe simply disappear. His ability to make the troupe virtually untraceable at any time makes him arguably the most useful member of the troupe. Yes, Chrollo runs the troupe, and yes, his plans are pretty damn good, but Kurapika's ability on top of being able to hide them made a lot of Chrollo's plans go as they should, including his decisive victory over Hisoka. Regardless of his lack of strength feats and sudden death, he contributes much more than he's given credit for.
Game over.
Shalnark is another member of the troupe who, like Uvogin, represents what the Phantom Troupe is perceived as from an outsider's standpoint. He's a cold individual who will do what is best for the spider, knowing that regardless of Chrollo's life being at risk, hunting Kurapika is what matters for the spider to survive. It's a contrast of interest that shows Chrollo's philosophy for the spider is at the core of his character. This detached nature of his personality when applied to his found family makes his Nen ability make much more sense. Of the entire troupe, Shalnark has a very frail and approachable design. This unassuming youthful look sells the Black Voice ability to control people effectively. All it takes is thinking he's a normal kid to be placed under his ability and by extension defeated instantly. Not to mention how he treats the people he controls as toys, filling out that detached nature from human lives. His death feels very fitting because he shows immense concern when seeing Kurapika's head. This small moment of vulnerability over his dead teammate left a free shot on his head. The final panel of his body follows that young man aesthetic while maintaining the gruesomeness of the scene extremely well. From his time in the story, Shalnark leaves a mark as a character who shows his complexity on his sleeve like Nobunaga at times, but can be as cold if not colder than his fellow troupe members. Chrollo stands as the most complicated of the Phantom Troupe. Beyond Sarasa's death shaping him into the man he'd become, Chrollo, even as a child, lived by his own set of morals and values. He's the first to step up to grab Sarasa's literal body bag and refuses to give up what he read on the note. The irony is not lost on Chrollo that the troupe owes its existence to the death of someone who would disapprove of their existence and actions in the first place. This foundation is an oxymoron, but necessary to protect Meteor City from people like the one who took Sarasa. The death of one good person can change an entire group of people into bloodshed in retribution for their death. The world has to suffer for Sarasa's death, which isn't fair. Kurapika lost his entire clan because of the troupe, and many more innocents or otherwise have perished too. He's become one of the world's greatest villains, which comes through in his Nen ability too. Bandit, Secret, or Skill Hunter strips people of both their greatest power and their identity. The process of stealing Nen abilities walks through the process of a thief vetting a place to conduct a heist. First, he must see the ability, taking interest in it. He must question the user about the ability, gaining knowledge of the item he wants to steal. The ability user must touch his bandit secret, giving him a closer inspection of the ability. Finally, he has to do all of the previous steps within an hour, giving the heist a time frame to be conducted successfully. The other two conditions of his abilities don't draw on this process and may be restrictions of such a powerful Nen ability. His Nen ability represents his life of stealing from others, and from that desire to steal, he gave birth to the spider. He started all of this, so believing it could operate without him when considering a handful of the members' perception of the troupe was too optimistic. On paper, it is great that he trusts his troupe members. Many of them see his survival as paramount to the survival of the spider itself though. For Chrollo, he doesn't care about whether he lives or dies, only if the spider survives. Looking at this, it could be that Chrollo, given all he's done, doesn't see value in his life in any context really. Yes, he's more than willing to fight to keep himself alive, but for everything he's done and likely due to his connection to Sarasa, he has no real self-worth. at least not in the conventional sense, as he sees his life being meaningful as the leader of the Spider to an extent. He feels beyond the bonds of good and evil with how he perceives his life's value, and in his battle against Hisoka. Their fight wasn't just about tactics, it was about who could exploit the situation more effectively. He used audience members, the referee, and their puppet doppelgangers to fight for him. This battle is a demonstration of how far each character is willing to go to win, and the idea of Heaven's Arena feels more ironic as Nen users like this battle like this in this arena. It's the only time Chrollo really goes all out, except the way he goes about it costs him almost everything thanks to the way he fights against the person he fought. Chrollo may not care about his life all that much, but the lives of the troupe matter greatly to him. As a man once said, he gets to see how it began, so he gets to see how it all ends. Chrollo will get to see the Phantom Troupe die. The loss of Uvogin, Pakunoda, Shalnark, and Kurapika are the byproduct of his actions. He turned his group of friends into the world's most notorious criminal group. The deterioration of the Phantom Troupe's uniform ideology is prevalent too because the Zoldyck siblings joined with ulterior motives. Members' morale and motivation has taken a serious hit, and things can only get worse with Hisoka and Kurapika on board the Black Whale 1. These two characters are the worst opponents for them if York New didn't show that off enough. Granted, the only solace they have is that they aren't collaborating together, but with Hisoka's growth and strength, it probably makes up the difference. There's also a distinct duality at play for the two forces. One acts as a judge for the troupe, and the other is a chaotic killer who will do whatever he wants to fulfill a vendetta. Literally two sides of the worst coin imaginable. Despite all my grand posturing, whether this spells the end for the troupe or not, only time will tell. The Phantom Troupe is one of the most fascinating antagonistic forces in manga. They can be taken at face value or looked at under a microscope because they are built to appeal to both perspectives. Striking designs, Nen abilities perfectly reflective of their characters, and an origin that makes perfect sense for who they became. I ultimately love the Phantom Troupe because they refuse to be a generic group of bad guys. Despite their irredeemable actions, they've got qualities and relationships that one can admire or just enjoy. What sells this the most is that they love being the Phantom Troupe and they never want to see it die. They're a family of murderers and bad people by definition, but a family nonetheless. And with that, it brings me to the end of this video. I want to thank you all so much for watching. Please stay safe out there and have yourselves a damn good one. I'll see you all next time.